Hey, everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So I have this Tic Tac container, this little mask figure, and a whole bunch of lids. And I think I got an idea for something cool. So come on, let's do it. Okay, let's start this project off pretty simple with some lids, and let's sand these things down, and voila. I had this tank tread from a model kit that I found at a yard sale, and I thought this would really give it a nice polished look. So I was just sizing it up, and then I got to get these little nubs off on the inside so it lays a little bit flatter. All right, once I got those off, I found this transformer bit that I think was a dump truck or something, but I think it's going to make a really cool chassis for this rover. So I got to get these off, and this is me just being dumb, hacking away at it, and I thought, wait a minute, I have a heat gun, so I went ahead and heated up the plastic there, and I was able to get that rivet out, no problem. Here's another transformer bit that I have, and don't worry, no transformers were hurt in the making of this. This was a trashed transformer to begin with. I'm gluing on this piece here, but I'm going to break it off a little bit later. Here's that mask piece I showed you in the very beginning, but I think I'm going to use this little astronaut instead. I've got this Star Wars bit that these chairs are perfect for a little cockpit to fit inside that Tic Tac bottle, but first things first, I need to figure out how to get this off. So what I did was I just scored it a couple times, then I got my model snips and I kind of started snipping this out. And ultimately what I'm trying to do is break it free from this entire cockpit because I just want that little chair. Now, it's a little bit messy. You can see here after I break this off, I'm going to have some cleanup work here, but I think in the end you'll see it actually turned out pretty cool. I got a Gundam part here, and I'm going to use this as a strut to kind of extend the front of the rover. Just cleaning off the little extra Gundam pieces here. And putting a little glue on, stick that on, and I think this is really nice. It's going to give this look as though those two front wheels can move back and forth and maybe even climb over rocks. You'll see the inside there, you can see the guts of it, so I'm going to have to fix that a little bit later. But here I am dremeling out this piece. Remember I told you that piece, I glued it down, I broke it off because it's got a cool little hinge and I want that thing to move up and down, so I went ahead and glued this on. You can see I dremeled out a little U-shape. That's so the Tic Tac bottle lays on there a little bit better. Now that I got this all re-glued, that's really cool. Moving to the wheels, I got a little axle here. This will be the back wheel, and I'm just kind of building a little additional structure so it looks kind of interesting. Drilled a hole in the back here. I'll slide that through. Yeah, I know I put the one on backwards, but I'll fix that later. I want the blue part to go against the tire, and I put it on backwards. But the cool thing is it actually rolls around a little bit, so that's kind of neat. Here's the front, drilled some holes through the struts. I don't want the axle to go all the way through, so I cut the axles a little bit shorter. I've got my extra little bit that I built, and it clicks right in. So, again, I think that gives a cool feel like it could move up and down over rocks. Okay, so I drilled a hole using this step drill bit, and it worked really nice because it makes a nice clean hole there. And the reason I did this is I want to lay nice and flat, and I've got an idea for a little magnetic system, so we'll see if that works here in a minute. But I need to kind of hide this back piece here. It's kind of gross, so I have this extra bit from one of our 1M robots, the arm there, and I glued that canister on. I got a hole here for this magnet. So here's my clever idea. If I can have it rest nicely on the back and then the magnet holds it in the front, the whole cockpit will align neat. And so I just dropped the magnet in there so it would float around, and then I was thinking I'll just glue that in once I get it lined up. Looking good, and boink. That magnet is so strong and the angle is so wonky, it doesn't work. So my solution is I took a chopstick, glued the heebie-jeebies out of it, put another magnet down there at the bottom. I'll put my magnet in the front as well just to help align everything, but this is just the placement of the magnet in the back, and it is really strong and everything holds really nice, so that's pretty cool. Back to the chair. Here's some polystyrene. I'm just going to build out the chair and cover things up. So here what I'm doing is I'm gluing the pilot on. You can see I've put some polystyrene on the sides there. I'm going to build this out a little bit more later, but I need to figure out how it fits in the cockpit, so I didn't go too far on this just yet. Doing a quick little placement, fit, added some additional bits there, and that's looking pretty cool. Now I got to fill in that part where you can see the backside of that Gundam model kit. So I took some polystyrene and just glued it on, trimmed it out. That looks pretty cool. Added a couple little tank parts that look like struts in the back there. I'm liking that. Taking a little guitar string, I bent it to all these little different angles, and this is just going to look like some wiring maybe coming from the strut, running up, and then coming into maybe the front of the chassis there. Adding on some little greeblies. These are just little rivets. They're beads that look like rivets, so that's kind of cool. Add another one over here on this side. Again, I just a little dab of glue, and then pop that rivet on. All right, here's the chair. You can see I put some joysticks, added some little rivets, I added some little hoses. I think that's gonna look a lot cooler and like kind of fill in some of those weird gaps because you can see into the cockpit, and I didn't want it to look awkward. I'm building out the cockpit here. This was a pain in the neck. I actually ended up doing this probably about 3 or 4 different times. I ended up having to get a whole new Tic Tac canister lid because I ruined the other one. Doing a little control panel here, a Gundam bit, and some other little model kit. I don't even know what it is, but he slides in really nice there. So I'll paint that up a little bit later, but I think that's going to be pretty cool. To the diorama, I just got some rocks out of my backyard, and I thought I'm going to have it be kind of this reddish Marsing, so I was clever and painted the base red, hot glued all the rocks down. And you can see I kind of arranged all the rocks, and they're just setting there, so I'm kind of just picking them up carefully and gluing them back into place. I found this bag at Hobby Lobby of sand for 99 cents, and I thought this is perfect. It's kind of a reddish color, so I'll put some glue in here. I'll kind of brush the glue around, sprinkle that sand in, and this will make a nice little red planet kind of surface. So I went ahead and continued on doing that and got some lightweight spackle, kind of smeared that all around, and I wanted it to look kind of like a texture that vehicles have moved in and out and kind of roughened up the surface here. So just giving it a little bit of texture, but you can see this red is not quite right. So I thought, what if I made it kind of this planet that is like a dark black with metallics in it? So there's some bronze in the rocks. It's a little hard to see in the picture, but then I added a little bit of a rust wash. And once this dries, it gives it a kind of a cool little variety in the texture and in the color. So I'm really liking how this is kind of turning out. And then I'm going to take some silver paint and actually dry brush these rocks so they almost look like these like metal magnetic energy rocks or something. I don't know. As you're building, you kind of think through these crazy things. I'm going to paint out the base black because I was spray painting and misting some different colors, so I'll just clean that up and that will be done. Now the cockpit, I did prime it and then I sprayed it this little bit darker gray, so that is not primer, but I wanted it to be kind of this gray and orange color scheme. So here I'm just peeling off the tape. And if you don't already know, peeling off masking tape is one of the perks of being a builder. The cockpit was a little weird because you could see the inside, and because you're going to see the pilot and all that, I figured I'll go ahead and paint this out black just so it kind of helps hide all that stuff. And then here's kind of that orangish color that I'm going to paint for some little accents here, and then I'll color the chassis. Also the same color, I spray painted the chassis silver, and then I'm covering it with this orange base. Painting up the cockpit, just with these little tiny details because you will be able to see into the cockpit with the pilot driving. Now I'm doing some washes. You know I love my washes. If you've seen any of my videos, you just lay the wash on, then you take a little paper towel, dab it off. It gives it some really nice texture. For the wheel here, I'm adding just a nice amount of glue. I'll spread that around generously and then slowly and carefully wrap it around and get it to align on the lid best I can. And this actually turned out really cool. It gives it such a finished, polished look. I love how this looks. And one little side note, make sure your tank treads are going the correct direction. I have done a project where I didn't do them the correct direction, so just take a second, make sure that's right, and there you go. That looks great. Just finishing up some little details here, the gas can, paint that red, and I'll start doing some washes. Now, as a builder, sometimes you get excited because these are the fun parts. This is easy. So I want you to pay close attention to the proximity of my wash sitting on my table. And as I'm working along here, sometimes you wonder, why do I even do this anymore? I don't know. I did sop that all up and squeeze it back into the bottle because I'm cheap. So back to putting the wash on. And I'm going to go ahead and add some decals. These are water slide decals that I just printed off of my laser printer. And I love putting decals on because they add such a nice little finishing touch to a project. So I think these look pretty cool. Doing some little metal chipping with my silver marker pens. Again, I love doing this. It just adds a little bit more depth to the project. And for the wheels, I didn't know exactly what to do. I was originally going to do some plastic on the wheels, but I decided to just do a little score here and then kind of gouge that out. And then I would take a little tiny drop of super glue, put that in the center there, and then take one of those same beads that I was using as my rivets and just kind of dab that on there. And then once that dries, I'll just take a little bit of black paint, cover that up. That looks great. Taking my silver marker again, and I'm just doing a little bit of weathering and texturing around the edge, just like it has some wear and tear. Now the tank treads are a little shiny, so I'm going to take this grounded charcoal powder and add a little bit of texture to that, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Okay. A lot of times when I come on here afterwards, I'm like, that build was so much fun. This build kicked my tail. The end product is still fun, but sometimes there's problems and solutions that you have to figure out that are just not that fun. But again, I think the end product turned out pretty cool. I like how it looks. So, and for those of you who voted on Instagram and said 6 wheels, there was a couple of you that were pretty bummed that I didn't have 4 wheels. Little side note, don't tell anybody, but I didn't actually glue those wheels on, so I still have a 4-wheeler if we want to set up on the diorama that way. So, let's do some turnaround shots of this thing, and as always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.